As we transition to our next, our final presentation of the day, we will be welcoming on stage Deputy Attorney General Jeff Rosen, along with Beth Williams, the Assistant Attorney General for the Office of Legal Policy. They will be closing out today's summit on combating human trafficking. I think we are ready. So at this time, please join me in welcoming to the stage the Deputy Attorney General Jeff Rosen, as well as Beth Williams, Assistant Attorney General for the Office of Legal Policy. Thank you both for joining us here this afternoon and taking time from your busy schedules to be here. At this time, it is my honor to introduce Beth Williams, the Assistant Attorney General for the Office of Legal Policy. Beth A. Williams was sworn in as an Assistant Attorney General on August 21st, 2017, after unanimous confirmation by the Senate. As Assistant Attorney General for the Office of Legal Policy, she serves as the primary policy advisor to the Attorney General and the Deputy Attorney General, and as the Chief Regulatory Officer for the Department of Justice. Ms. Williams graduated from Harvard College magna cum laude with a degree in history and literature. She earned her law degree from Harvard Law School, where she served as executive editor of the Harvard Journal of Law and Public Policy. After graduation, she served as a law clerk to Judge Richard C. Wesley of the United States Court of Appeals for the Second Circuit. From 2005 to 2006, Ms. Williams served as special counsel to the United States Senate Committee on the Judiciary, where she assisted with the confirmation of Chief Justice John G. Roberts, Jr. and Associate Justice Samuel A. Alito, Jr. to the United States Supreme Court. Prior to becoming Assistant Attorney General, Ms. Williams was a litigation and appellate partner at a national law firm, where her practice focused on complex commercial, securities, and First Amendment litigation. Ms. Williams litigated cases in federal and state courts across the country. She also served as chair of the firm's Women's Leadership Initiative here in Washington, D.C. Ms. Williams received the firm's Pro Bono Service Award 7 years in a row for her dedication to pro bono work. President Donald J. Trump announced his intention to nominate Ms. Williams on June 12th of 2017, and the Senate confirmed her nomination on August 3rd, 2017. Ladies and gentlemen, please join me in welcoming Assistant Attorney General Williams.
Good afternoon, everyone. My name is Beth Williams, and as Stacy mentioned, I'm the Assistant Attorney General for the Office of Legal Policy. I hope that it has been made clear today that combating human trafficking is a top priority of the Attorney General and of this administration. Human trafficking has been called modern-day slavery, and appropriately so. When you hear the victims' stories and learn of the criminal acts involved, it is hard to imagine crimes more reprehensible. Attorney General Barr and Deputy Attorney General Rosen understand that human trafficking is an offense against human dignity and that it is a crucial part of the department's mission to fight it at every turn and to bring those who perpetuate it and profit from it to justice. To that end, the department convicted a record 526 defendants in fiscal year 2018, including those who recruit, patronize, and solicit children and other trafficked persons. These are significant and incredibly difficult prosecutions, and the men and women of the Human Trafficking Prosecutions Unit in Civil Rights and the Child Exploitation and Obscenity Section in the Criminal Division, as well as the many assistant U.S. attorneys, victim witness coordinators, and agents in the field should be applauded. Day after day, they are the ones who are bravely facing society's worst, despite the heavy personal toll that it can take. As you have also heard, the department recently took down Backpage.com, the leading internet site facilitating sex trafficking of minors and adults, and obtained guilty pleas from Backpage.com, its CEO and marketing director. The significance of this cannot be overstated. It should send a message to all that the department will not turn a blind eye to those who profit from trafficking in persons. With regard to profit, there is no question that human trafficking generates millions of dollars annually in illicit proceeds. The department is focused on making sure that the victims who are owed restitution receive it. I am therefore pleased to report that attorneys from the Office of Legal Policy helped lead a cross-component working group with the Office of the Deputy Attorney General to improve monetary restitution for victims and developed training materials for federal prosecutors that will assist them in ensuring victim compensation. The fight against human trafficking continues, and today I have the honor of introducing someone who is dedicated to leading that fight, our keynote speaker, Deputy Attorney General Jeffrey A. Rosen. Confirmed by the Senate on May 16th of last year, Deputy Attorney General Rosen acts as the department's chief operating officer and advises and assists the Attorney General in leading the department's more than 110,000 employees. The Deputy Attorney General brings to the department a wealth of litigation and policy expertise. From 2003 to 2006, he served as General Counsel of the Department of Transportation. And from 2006 to 2009, he served as General Counsel and Senior Policy Advisor for the White House Office of Management and Budget. Moreover, immediately before his present appointment, the Deputy Attorney General served for 2 years as the Deputy Secretary of Transportation, where he was the Chief Operating Officer of that department. There, he worked on trafficking issues with the Federal Motor Carrier Safety Administration, including training to help operators identify human smuggling and trafficking on our highways. Between his positions in government service, he was a litigation partner in private practice, where I first had the pleasure of working with him and getting to know him. Deputy Attorney General Rosen received a BA with highest distinction from Northwestern University and a JD magna cum laude from Harvard Law School. He's a man committed to fairness, to justice, and to applying the full force of law to bring traffickers to justice. Please join me in welcoming the 38th Deputy Attorney General, Jeffrey A. Rosen.
Well, thank you, Beth, for that very kind introduction, and thanks to all of you for being here. We really appreciate so many people being here for the Human Trafficking Summit, because prosecuting human trafficking and protecting and assisting victims are among the top priorities we have at the Department of Justice. Today, we highlighted initiatives that are moving us forward and also discussed challenges that all of us together need to confront in order to take the next leap forward. So I'm very grateful to the U.S. attorneys, to the FBI, and the DOJ, other DOJ personnel who are here today. Your presence helps cement the message that our department has made the fight against human trafficking a top priority. Our state, local, tribal, and territorial government partners, including in law enforcement, are on the front lines. We have your back, and we are in this work together with you. So I also want to thank officials from all of those entities, and also from other U.S. government agencies here today and every day, for being in partnership with us. And I also, of course, want to thank the organizers of today's event and Stacey Harris, who continually does a wonderful job for the department on these issues. So, expert survivor leaders inform the strategies we discussed today. As to those folks, we salute your courage in stopping human traffickers from hurting others, even while you build your own lives and move on from surviving to thriving. And last but not least, I do want to thank representatives from non-governmental organizations that assist survivors and work with communities to prevent human trafficking. We are very grateful for your partnership as well, and really for the partnership of everybody that's involved in today's event. There are several important takeaways from today's summit. I'm going to mention 3 in particular. The first is protecting and assisting victims is important to the larger cause of justice and to the immediate needs of investigation and prosecution. Second, human trafficking overlaps with other crimes, including drug trafficking, gang crimes, money laundering, and human smuggling, for example. And human trafficking is hidden in a very wide range of settings, from local and transnational commercial sex enterprises to sweatshops and fields across the United States, all the way to global supply chains of major multinational corporations. We need more innovative strategies to detect it so we can stop it. And then third, we need the availability of all law enforcement tools to adequately investigate and prosecute more human trafficking cases. While some have said we cannot prosecute our way out of the problem, the fact is that a human trafficker who remains at large can and will find other victims. So these 3 points, victim protection, detection of hidden crime intersecting with other crime problems, and the value of effective investigations and prosecutions, are something that we see in recent cases that the department and its partners have successfully investigated and prosecuted. So, as one example, in May of 2019, a federal jury found Brian Folks guilty of 13 federal felonies arising from his operation of a violent sex and drug trafficking enterprise that sold heroin and forced young, drug-addicted women to engage in commercial sex throughout the greater Burlington, Vermont area. Over almost 4 years, Folks targeted young, vulnerable women who were either addicted to drugs or homeless. After recruiting victims and forcing them to perform commercial sex acts, he inflicted serious consequences if they violated his rules. He beat the victims, often in front of others, creating a climate of fear, and he sexually assaulted them. He videotaped them performing explicit sex acts and threatened to expose the videos to the public. He also used heroin as an addictive tool and used painful withdrawal symptoms as punishment. Folks is scheduled to be sentenced on February 3rd of this year, and he faces between 15 years up to life imprisonment, as well as mandatory payment of restitution to the sex trafficking victims. Another example, last May, a U.S. district judge sentenced a couple in Southlake, Texas to 7 years in prison each and ordered them to pay over $288,000 in restitution to the victim of their crime. A federal jury had convicted the defendants of forced labor, conspiracy to commit alien harboring, and alien harboring after a jury trial. Here's what had happened. The defendants had arranged for the victim, who was then a young child in rural Guinea, to travel alone from her home in West Africa to the defendant's home in Texas in early 2000. The defendants forced the victim to cook, clean, and take care of their own children, some of whom were close to the victim's age, all without pay for the next 16 years. So this bears repeating. They managed to keep this hidden for 16 years. As a consequence of their convictions, the defendants, who are citizens of Guinea and lawful permanent residents of the United States, may lose their U.S. immigration status and be removed to their home country pursuant to law. Now, in developing these cases, we have heard today from 2 DOJ prosecuting units whose work is at the heart of the Department of Justice's efforts in this area. They represent the Department of Justice's commitment to the anti-human trafficking mission. In response to the need for expertise from federal, state, and local law enforcement partners nationwide, back in 2007, DOJ formed the Human Trafficking Prosecution Unit, or HTPU, as a specialized unit within the Civil Rights Division. The unit is devoted to novel, complex, multi-jurisdictional, and international trafficking cases. The second unit, attorneys from the Department of Justice's criminal divisions, Child Exploitation and Obscenity Section, or sometimes the acronym CEOS, C-E-O-S, continue to serve as experts in child sex trafficking crimes and the online facilitation of sex trafficking. So these 2 units in our Civil Rights Division and our Criminal Division, they provide distinct expertise in wide-ranging threats criminalized under the Traffic Victims Protection Act of 2000 and other laws, including those that prohibit transnational crime, organized crime, and online exploitation. So since that act was passed in 2000, those units, and working together with our U.S. attorneys' offices throughout the country, have prosecuted First, they've prosecuted 2,302 cases, 2,302. They have secured convictions, 3,589 convictions, because some are multi-defendant cases, and they brought 4,244 traffickers to justice since the act was passed. These include cases against customers who fuel demand by purposefully seeking sex with children, and against those who facilitate this horrendous crime, such as the groundbreaking prosecution against Backpage.com. We also heard today about DOJ-led enforcement initiatives spearheaded by HTPU, CEOS, and the U.S. Attorney's offices, and of course the FBI. These include the Anti-Trafficking Coordination Team Initiative, or ACT teams, the U.S.-Mexico Bilateral Human Trafficking Enforcement Initiative, and the Innocent Loss Task Forces, among others that have helped us leap ahead. One Phase 2 ACT team district prosecuted a landmark case against 38 defendants who operated an extensive transnational sex trafficking enterprise that exploited hundreds of Thai women throughout the United States. That same team in Minnesota also simultaneously charged and convicted two other forced labor cases involving foreign victims, one in a restaurant and another in domestic servitude. Another initiative was Operation Independence Day, spearheaded by the FBI last summer to identify and arrest sex traffickers and recover child victims. That month-long initiative relied on more than 400 law enforcement agencies around the country, and in all, 103 juveniles were identified or recovered, and 67 suspected traffickers were arrested. The sweep resulted in 60 new federal investigations. Since the Trafficking Victims Protection Act passed in 2000, the number of cases charged and the defendants convicted have increased exponentially. These cases have included very complex cases with multiple victims, extensive criminal enterprises that operated for years across multiple jurisdictions, labor trafficking cases across a range of work sectors, and sex trafficking cases affecting both adult and child victims. So let me just pause there for a second to take a step back, because this year, the year 2020, marks the 20th anniversary of the Trafficking Victims Protection Act. The TVPA responded to the fact that the ability of one person to control, exploit, abuse, and profit from another person's labor and from commercial sex acts has not yet been fully eradicated, but it needs to be. And this is why prosecuting human traffickers and protecting vulnerable victims are among the Department of Justice's very top priorities. The Department of Justice is at the forefront of this fight, but we would not be able to make progress without the involvement of everybody that I mentioned earlier. We would not make a dent without our investigative partners. We would not make a dent without governmental and non-governmental human service agencies that are helping traumatized victims. We would not make a dent without those working to prevent this crime from happening in the first place. But we have so much left to do. So this summit is also a time to pause and to celebrate all that we have done together in the 2 decades since the Trafficking Victims Protection Act was enacted. I want to personally thank each of you that has been involved in this really tremendous effort over the years. And today, we recommit our energies to ending human trafficking. Our work continues. So thank you all for being here and for continuing this important work.
I again just want to thank Deputy Attorney General Rosen and Assistant Attorney General Williams for their remarks, passion, and leadership on this issue. In closing today's ceremony, I want to leave you with one thought. Today, freedom means what it has always meant to human beings. When Harriet Tubman crossed that great geographic border from slavery into freedom, she said, "When I found I had crossed that line, I looked at my hands to see if I was the same person. There was such a glory over everything. The sun came like gold through trees and over the fields, and I felt like I was in heaven." Today, the Department of Justice recommits itself to ensuring that all human beings find that glory over everything. Today, we recommit to ending human trafficking in all of its form and in all of its manifestations. Thank you for joining us today, and thank you for all of the work that you have done on behalf of survivors and victims of human trafficking.